Um, I don't know about y'all, but I didn't grow up with knowing too much about Cesar Chavez. I just kind of knew that he was a farm worker, and you get a day off in school for his day. Yeah, I'm trying to read the comments here. Yeah, so we are recording this, and um, I did want to say that, as I mentioned at the beginning, I had some questions for you all to spark a little discussion. And we have a couple prizes to give away that I'm really excited. Crystal, who's part of the Basas program, was able to get these prizes to give away, and Pat Islas. Um, so we have a sign in. If you all could sign in, if you're a student, please, in the chat before I forget. But as far as the prizes, I want to give them away to anyone who participates and chimes in. But we have a documentary to give away, so that did have some archival footage, but obviously it was a dramatization. But there is a documentary to give away of Cesar Chavez, and then the book that I'm holding. Well, not my copy, but we do have a copy of this book, which is Si Ella Puede. And this is a Dolores Huerta um, biography by Dr. Sowards, who was actually my professor back at UTEP back in the day. And just like this one, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the one that Crystal has to give away is signed by Dr. Sowards. So um, uh, whichever faculty member, Carla, asked you to be here, if there was one. If not, you could just leave that blank, I think, or put my name, Jorge Gomez. Um, yeah, I'm reading Reina's comment, but yeah, it's really cool, for Chicanic studies. But yeah, going back to the questions or just your overall thoughts, so the first question was about how he addressed the toxic masculinity. And if you remember, there was a particular scene when they were thinking about retaliating against the Gore, one of the Gore's sons. And then there was also the question about how does Cesar Chavez strategize? A lot of times I think those who have been involved in politics in any way, either in school or outside of school in the community, might be wondering the same thing. How do you affect change? And Cesar Chavez exemplified the idea of nonviolence, like Gandhi and Dr. King and others. So there was a question about that. What particular organizational methods did he use to achieve his goals? And then the last question was in anticipation of tomorrow's event, which I'm really excited about, which is going to be the Dolores Huerta interview. Which is just incredible that we're able to get her. And big shout out to Crystal Robert for being able to book her. Here's the flyer for it. But you might you'll be able to see her, and there will be a Q&A for it. Crystal will be moderating that interview and the discussion that follows it. But questions and or just thoughts based on the things that I mentioned, your impressions.
Yes, Jorge, this is Irma Camacho. I have a few comments.
Yeah.
Of course, it's always inspiring, and I to see this movie. I want to share with you that as a college student way back in the day, early 70s, Cesar came to El Paso, and it was my privilege to be able to be in the room when he was talking on several occasions. He came here to join us in the Ferris strike. At the time, El Paso was #1 pen manufacturing location of the world. And of course, FARA, hired primarily Chicanos and Chicanas and paid them and wouldn't allow for any kind of union to represent them. And so he marched with us and he spoke to us and to the local people who were working so hard. We also had a department store called The Popular, and it was downtown and in Bassett Center, and it also had it was a premier kind of upper echelon type of department store. And so we walked with the workers there who also striked, and for the opportunity to have somebody representing them. And I want to say that when I first walked into the room, I couldn't tell, and the first time I ever saw or heard Cesar, I couldn't tell who it was, where is he? Where is he? I was so excited because he was very mild-mannered, not the least bit, outgoing, or I think just very quiet. But when he stood up to talk, he talked with such a compelling voice. We all listened. And it's the clarity that he had and what he was doing and what he was strategizing, and his support for laborers, not only in California, not only the farm workers, but also here in El Paso, where we had, similar things happening to our workers where they didn't have any union representation. And so I had that privilege. And I just want to share how important it is to have heroes. And I often say that to my students: have heroes, people that you believe in and who represent something. It was my understanding that Cesar studied with Saul Alinsky, who was a proponent of nonviolence. And so his strategies came from there. He had gone to training with Saul Alinsky. And so I just wanted to share that wonderful privilege and opportunity that I've had, and that I'll always, it'll always be near and dear to my heart and still my inspiration.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Irma. I didn't know that. I didn't know. Yeah, so that's really interesting. That you're able to see him here, and I think there was also Crystal had mentioned that Dolores had also visited right a couple years ago, and I think she mentioned she was able to see her. Um, and I do want to. I know that some of the students here might be a little shy, but given that some of you might have not have been too familiar with his life story and just what he did, for farm workers, I'm wondering what y'all thought about, this, and especially in relation to, history classes, and how history classes typically don't teach that kind of history. Or even just, what you thought about the film. What if you found it, yeah. Mm. Yeah, so it came out in 2014. So it's about 7 years old. um and I like how they kind of do mix in, that real footage, especially at the end. You get that, and you could see that, I mentioned that Diego Luna was the director, right? He's that actor, famous Mexican actor. And um you could see that he kind of put, I could tell, he kind of put his little touch in there in the performances, and some of the some of the drama and the action. Mm. Yeah, the seizing the not just the means of production, Sarah, right, but also the everything, all the what all the processes, right, that relate to production. It is really quite brazen, and it was interesting. I One of my favorite scene was when Robert Kennedy comes in and he kind of does speak up for Cesar Chavez, and at first I was like, well, it's just a photo op, right? But then he does really kind of raise that voice, and but at the same time, that was kind of counterbalanced with hearing on the radio or the television in the background that Ronald Reagan was rising. He was in the primary for California, and eventually, of course, became governor, and then, of course, became president. So it's kind of interesting how they kind of put that in there to kind of give a little bit of that historical context, besides, you know, playing on the radio when Robert Kennedy ended up getting shot. But yeah, I mean, those, yeah, and I believe it's also Trans Visibility Day, right, Sarah? So we want to honor that too, and I think just fighting for rights of those who are marginalized because of their sex, gender. There's a lot of just straight up racism in this film, and classism too. Mm. Yeah, that too. I thought it was interesting how when they're marching, they had the La Virgen de Guadalupe, and so it's a big part of Cesar Chavez and his marches. One critique, that I kind of was hinting at about toward in the film is, I get that the focus is, of course, is at Chavez, and today is, of course, is at Chavez Day, but a co-equal, and you read a lot about her in the book that we're giving away to a student, is the contributions that Dolores Huerta made, and I think the film kind of glosses over that. I think, and I think, could have done a better job of that, because the way that Rosario's character is portrayed, she's very much in the background, and she's in a couple scenes there, but, from my understanding, she was, I think they should have shown her also making speeches, because she was also given speeches, she was also a leader, just like as much as Cesar was, and actually was part of that contract that they ended up making at the end. Did anyone have other thoughts? I know we have a lot of shy students today, but that's okay. But um, you don't have to turn your camera on if you want to just unmute.
I found
Mm.
the one part that I found interesting in the documentary was when, or the movie was when how Chavez wanted to keep everything peaceful. He didn't want to do anything violently. He wanted to keep everything, just like, just be out there, but no violence or anything. And if anybody acted out in violence, how he would kick them out of his movement. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And sorry, I was trying to find you in my screen. Who was this?
Armando Dominguez.
Armando.
Yes, sir.
Y- Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that. Um, the whole non-violence thing, I think, is really key to a lot of these civil rights movements. I think, yeah, I think, um, it goes back to that idea of civil disobedience, right? And you know, when it comes to fasting, right? He was demeaned by his own union there, right? Of when they thought that fasting was going to work. We know it worked with Gandhi. Um, and of course others have tried that. There was the boycott. There is the grape dump scene that I think was a bit reminiscent, of course, of the Boston Tea Party kind of thing going on. Um, and then Eve, brought up a really good point about the representation, right? And when it comes to film, I think that's something that we should always ask ourselves of Hollywood is, are they actually hiring actors and even the crew, right? And so on, down up and down that ladder, who actually are, Latinx or Latinos and Latinas, and can actually be representative of the people that they are portraying. Because a lot of times Hollywood ends up what we call whitewashing, and whitewashing is, when you have in this case, when you might have an actor who is white playing someone who is a person of color. And unfortunately, Hollywood is very white dominant. And that's, I think, also another reason why other fields are as well, right? Like Congress, for instance. So it's not unique to Hollywood, but it's one reason why this is a good representation that he was talking about. Other thoughts? And I want to open up to my colleagues as well. I know I said that I wanted to hear from students, but hmm. Yeah, and that's very true, Irma. I think going back to the Chicanx movement, that goes back to it splintering off, because it wasn't inclusive of the women, and we saw that with Cesar too and Elena, who he kind of didn't want her to get involved, right? And so he was just kind of this idea that she should just worry about the house and that was it, right? And we saw him kind of reflecting on that when he remembered, his son and how he wasn't able to really get to know him because he was so devoted to his work. So he ended up neglecting that. So there was that. Yeah, exactly, Pat. And so I think all the more reason why we need a Dolores Huerta biopic to match that. Mm. Yeah, that too, Reina. I forgot about that. Yeah, a lot of good connections you are making to the Black Lives Matter movement. as I'm sure you'll know, right now, the officer who is being charged with killing George Floyd is on trial. So it's very moving just hearing all that testimony, from witnesses and people who answered the call, you know, and yeah, exactly, Sarah. We did see that with the EPPC, the processing center that ICE has here, where there were those hunger strikes, and it was extremely brutal, because they ended up being force fed, and um, yeah, so that's another big intersection there is immigrant rights. I think that's one thing that you know mm, yeah, Pat, and that reminds me of that scene in the film that was really powerful where they get sprayed with the pesticide. It reminded me of Carmelita Torres, in the bath riots here in El Paso, who I think it was 1918 or whatever it was. I'm not too good with years, but those who don't know, farm workers here, thanks, Rena, who were from Juarez, workers who were crossing over from Juarez, were in a very racist way of being assumed that they had lice, or rather, as a pretext, they just said that they had lice, and so they ended up delousing them with pesticide. And so it's one of the main racist stains in this country that it goes to show that there's been a lot of oppressed minorities, and there's a lot of history here in El Paso that has been racist. As strong as we are and tight knit of a community we are, we still have that in our conscience to reckon with. Richie, I know we have some, so I want to thank you all for being here today, and I hope you all can join us tomorrow. Chris, I don't know if you wanted to say some things real quick before Richie tells us a little bit about what's coming up for Papagayo next week as far as the Dolores Huerta interview you have tomorrow.
Hello, everyone. Jorge, thank you for helping promote the Dolores Huerta event tomorrow. We're very excited. I think that like what Irma Camacho was saying, um, so 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 beautifully is when she heard Cesar Chavez speak, he spoke with such a clarity. And I think that's something that I hope that each and every one of our participants will take away with them from tomorrow's events, is that Dolores Huerta, looks like us. She talks like us, very straightforward with, just power and wisdom. And it's just, I hope that everyone will who attends will be inspired and focus on doing more in their community. And that was that's the impetus for this for these events, for these month-long events for the College of the Community, celebration of Cesar Chavez, and celebration of community action, is to hope to open that up to all of our communities, our students, our faculty, our colleagues, our friends, our families, and to remind you that you can also make a difference. You can also change the world, and most of the time, all you have to do is show up. So I hope that everyone will be in attendance that's here today. I think you're going to find her words just as inspiring as the film we just watched, thanks to Papagayo. It's at 5:20 tomorrow. We're going to start things off, and we'll be taking questions from the audience, as many as we can. So I hope you'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Crystal. And I did want to say that our two winners are Armando and Eve. So thank you both. I'm reaching out to y'all right now in the chat for information on how to actually send that over to you. But Richie, real quick, did you want to mention what we have going on for Papagayo? Those who joined us, so this is, we meet every week. So today just happened to be for Cesar Chavez as part of Pasos, and we are part of Pasos regardless, not just for today. So what is that we have going on next week?
Yeah, right on. First of all, yeah, thanks for leading that discussion. I hadn't seen it before, so I'm loving everyone's commentary, and again, what was led. I'm looking forward to tomorrow as well. So, man, shout out to everyone who's been involved with that. So for Papagayo next week, I definitely encourage you guys to come back. We're gonna be meeting next Wednesday, although a little bit earlier, from 12 to 2. And if you don't know, April is Poetry Month. And there are going to be a lot of readings and events. We have, the Spring Arts Festival. I know we're collaborating and bringing an awesome poet in Jose Olivares, and his book Citizen Illegal is really great. That's later in the month, but I'm just kind of giving some context here. But next Wednesday, I'm going to kick things off with a kind of discussion and workshop on inspiration and creativity. I'm calling it Breathing Between the Lines. I'm going to talk about breath as kind of the thread that connects a lot of different types of creativity. I also love its connection to the root of the word inspiration. But hopefully we can do some writing as well in celebration of Poetry Month. Maybe just do some generative writing and share a little bit of that. And since there are a lot of you guys listening and watching right now, in addition to teaching at EPCC, I run the Barbed Wire Open Mic Series. We're one of El Paso's longest running open mic nights. And we've shifted to online events during the pandemic. And it's been really cool because we've been able to give a platform for people from the comfort of their homes. Every Monday night, we stream an event live on our YouTube channel. You can see them all. They're all archived there. You can just look up the Barbed Wire Open Mic. And we're going to be doing a lot of stuff in celebration of Poetry Month as well. So I just want to let you guys know about that if that seems interested, something you might be interested in doing, or telling your students or your friends about, or if you have anything that you'd like to share, poetry, writing, prose, music, dance. Honestly, I would love to see maybe some dancers show up and do something. We have worked with dancers in the past at the open mics. They've done their own little solo routines, or people get creative. I remember one time there was a performer who recorded herself prior, and then she projected it during the show, and she did a dance with her projection on the screen, and it was really cool. Anyway, that's all it is. Creativity, inspiration. Next week, Wednesday from 12 to 2 o'clock. If you guys followed the link tree, you should definitely check that out. But I guess I'm gonna go ahead and stop now because I'm talking for a long time. And if you guys want to have any questions, you can just contact me. Yeah.
Thanks, Richie. And so, we are recording this. So, if you hopefully we'll be able to make this available if you are able to, if you would like to. But yeah, I want to thank you all for joining us. It's a busy week here, right? So, we got Easter coming up if you celebrate that. But tomorrow, I hope to see you all at the Dolores Huerta event. So that'll be separate from Zoom. So that'll be on Blackboard Collaborate. So hope you all can make it to that one. I hope you all have a good rest of your evening. And thank you all. It was great talking to you all. Thank you. Pat and Carlos, thank you both for helping me out with the links. I couldn't see the chat because I was showing my screen. So, and Evelyn, I'll get with you on remind about your information for to send you the book. But congrats.
Yay, congrats to the winners. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Pat. So, we do have it. We will have the recording. So, did you want Richard to send you like the link to the file, or how would you like that?
That would be fine. Just some way that I could download it, and then I can send it to Daniel because he was gonna put all of them together on a YouTube, on the EPCC YouTube thing. So he was going to work on that. So I just need the actual file itself, but it's up to you. We should probably stop recording since we're at the end of the session.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I totally did. In fact, I'm even